Did you know there is a forbidden story, an obscure and terrifying chapter in the sacred texts that the priests of ancient Egypt tried to erase? A story of a day when the cosmic order shattered, when the eternal cycle was broken and the sun god Ra, the source of all life and light, was swallowed by the darkness and did not return. They told you the sun always rises. They gave you a universe of perfect, predictable cycles, a world governed by the unwavering law of Ma'at. But that is the lie. The comforting lie they told you so you would not have to face the terrible truth, that the order of the cosmos is not guaranteed, that the light is not invincible, and that on one catastrophic day, the great serpent Apep finally won. This is not a myth about a bad sunrise. It is the story of a cosmic trauma, a wound in the fabric of time that explains the madness, the fear, and the spiritual amnesia of the world you now inhabit. They did not want you to know this story, because if you understood that the sun of consciousness can be extinguished, if you knew that the divine can be trapped in the underworld, you would start to ask dangerous questions about the nature of your own inner darkness and the true fragility of your own reality. This is the story of the day the sun refused to rise, the long night of the gods, and the terrifying consequences that were unleashed upon the earth when the light failed. To understand the horror of this event, you must first remember the sacred promise of the solar cycle. Every single night, the sun god Ra, old and weary, sails his solar bark into the western horizon and begins his perilous journey through the Duat, the underworld. This is a journey of renewal, a necessary descent into darkness to be reborn, young and powerful at the dawn. This eternal, predictable cycle is the foundation of all reality. It is the cosmic heartbeat, the divine guarantee that light will always conquer darkness, that order will always triumph over chaos, that life will always be reborn from death. This cycle is Ma'at, the divine order, in action. The rising of the sun is not just a physical event. It is a daily, magical act of cosmic recreation. And for millennia, this promise was kept. The sun always rose, but the forbidden texts, the ones that were whispered in the deepest initiation chambers and later branded as heretical, speak of a time when the cycle was broken. They speak of a conjunction of cosmic forces, a moment of profound imbalance in the heavens that gave the great serpent Apep an unprecedented advantage. Apep, the eternal enemy of the light, the embodiment of the cosmic void, is a force of entropy that can never be killed. Every night he attacks the solar bark, and every night he is defeated by the combined power of the gods, most notably the fierce warrior, Set Button. This one, fateful night. Something was different. The texts describe a darkening of the stars and a silence of the gods. It was as if the universe itself held its breath. As Ra's boat entered the deepest, most dangerous part of the Duat, Apep did not just attack, he ambushed. And this time, he was stronger. The battle was said to have been so ferocious that it shook the foundations of both the heavens and the earth. The gods on the boat fought with all their might, but the serpent's power was overwhelming. The texts speak of Set's spear shattering against the serpent's scales. They speak of Thoth's magic being devoured by the serpent's roar. They speak of Isis's protective spells failing. And then, the unthinkable happened. Apep, for the first and only time, defeated the divine crew. He did not just stop the boat, he swallowed it. He inhaled the sun god Ra, the entire divine council, and the light of all creation, and he dragged them down into the deepest abyss of the underworld, a place of no return. And on the earth, the people waited. They performed their morning rituals. They chanted their hymns to the dawn. But the dawn did not come. The horizon remained black. The world was plunged into a terrifying, unnatural, and seemingly endless twilight. The sun had refused to rise. The consequences on earth were immediate and catastrophic. Without the light of Ra, the regulating principle of Ma'at was broken. The laws of nature began to unravel. The texts describe a world gone mad. The Nile, the river of life, was said to have turned sluggish and black. The crops in the fields began to wither. Animals became confused and aggressive, the predators and the prey turning on each other in a frenzy of chaos. But the most terrifying effects were on the human mind. Without the light of divine consciousness, the light of Ra, to illuminate their souls, humanity was plunged into a state of spiritual darkness. The connection to the gods was severed. Prayers went unanswered. The sacred temples became silent, empty shells. The very fabric of the human psyche began to fray. People were seized by a primal terror, a deep existential dread. They were gripped by paranoia, by madness, by a collective despair. The serpent Apep was not just holding the sun captive in the underworld. His victory had allowed his own chaotic, nihilistic consciousness to seep up into the world of the living. It was a planetary dark night of the soul. A world without a sun is a world without a self. The forbidden texts that describe this event are chilling in their detail. Modern archaeology has found fragments of papyri, often in tombs that were desecrated or sealed in unusual ways, that hint at this cosmic catastrophe. These texts, often called the Books of the Overturning, are usually dismissed by mainstream Egyptologists as mere descriptions of chaotic political periods or as ritual texts for warding off evil. They refuse to see them for what they are: eyewitness accounts of a metaphysical disaster. They speak of rituals that were never recorded in the official state temples, desperate and bloody rites performed in secret to try and feed the captive sun with the life force of the earth, to try and call Ra back from the abyss. They speak of priests staring at the black eastern horizon, their magic failing, their world ending. One of the most disturbing pieces of evidence is a strange and recurring image found in these forbidden texts. It shows the solar bark, not sailing on the river of the underworld, but stranded, half submerged in a thick, black, tar-like substance, its divine crew depicted as weak and helpless. And coiled around the boat is the triumphant serpent, Apep, but his eyes are not the eyes of a beast. They are depicted as two vast, hypnotic spirals, drawing all light into themselves. This is not a battle. This is a depiction of a completed capture. And even more chilling is the description of a forbidden ritual, a rite that was performed in absolute secrecy during this long night. It was a ritual that was the antithesis of all Egyptian magic. Instead of invoking the gods, it was a ritual to bypass them. It was an attempt by a desperate few to connect directly with the primal, chaotic forces of the pre-creation state, the powers that even the gods feared, in a desperate gamble to find a power strong enough to challenge Apep. The texts describe a hidden chamber, deep beneath the oldest temples, where there is a stone door, and on this door is not the usual protective eye of Horus. It is the symbol of a single, closed third eye. This is not a symbol of blindness, but a symbol of a consciousness that is deliberately turned inward, away from the divine order of the gods, and towards the formless void within. The ritual was said to be a way of opening this inner door, of releasing a power that was older and more chaotic than the gods themselves. It was the ultimate act of heresy, born of the ultimate despair. They were trying to fight fire with an even greater fire. They were willing to risk the unmaking of their own souls to save the world. And this leads us to the great, terrifying hypothesis. What if this story is not a myth from the past? What if it is a memory, an ancestral psychic trauma that is still encoded in your very DNA? What if the long night never truly ended? What if Ra was eventually freed from the belly of the serpent, but he was not the same? What if he was wounded, diminished, his light forever dimmed? And what if the world we now inhabit is not the bright, orderly world of the original creation, but a shadow world, a world still living in the perpetual twilight that followed the great catastrophe? What if the sun you see in the sky is a lesser sun, a ghost of its former glory? And what if the chaos, the fear, the madness, the spiritual disconnection that you see all around you is not a modern problem, but a chronic, planetary, post-traumatic stress disorder, the lingering effect of a day when the light of God itself was almost extinguished? This would mean that you were born into a wounded cosmos, a world that has been fundamentally out of balance since that forgotten, terrible day. And your spiritual journey is not just a journey of personal healing. It is an act of cosmic repair. The forbidden texts tell us that after what felt like an eternity of darkness, a rescue was staged. But it was not a glorious victory. It was a desperate, bloody, and costly affair. The gods who had been swallowed with Ra were helpless. The power had to come from outside the serpent. The legends say it was the combined, desperate effort of the remaining divine forces. Isis, the great magician, used her power not to fight, but to find a weakness, a crack in the serpent's being. Thoth, the god of wisdom, spoke a forgotten, uncreating word to momentarily stun the beast. And Set, the god of chaos, who had been defeated in the initial battle, is said to have been reborn from his own rage, becoming a storm of pure, focused violence that attacked the serpent from the outside. They did not kill Apep. That is impossible. But they forced him to vomit, to disgorge the solar bark, to spit the wounded and traumatized sun god back out into the waters of the Duat. And so, after a long and terrifying delay, a weak, pale, and wounded sun finally rose on the horizon. The world was saved from total oblivion, but it was not the same. The cosmic order had been violated, the eternal rhythm had been broken, and a profound and terrible lesson had been learned. The light is not invincible. The victory is not guaranteed. And a seed of a new and terrible fear had been planted in the heart of all creation. The priests who survived this event, who recorded this forbidden history, became the architects of a new kind of religion. A religion built not on the joyful celebration of a guaranteed dawn, but on a desperate, fearful, and constant struggle to prevent the night from winning again. This is the origin of all fear-based, dogmatic religion. The rituals became more rigid, more demanding. The offerings became more elaborate. The priesthood became more powerful because they were now the only ones who knew the terrible secret, the only ones who knew how to perform the magical defenses that were necessary to keep the great serpent at bay. The joyous, confident spirituality of the early ages was replaced by a spirituality of anxiety and appeasement. And the story of the long night, the story of the sun's failure, was suppressed. It was too dangerous. It revealed the fragility of the gods. It revealed the true power of the void. And it was a constant reminder that the world was, and always would be, living on the edge of a cosmic abyss. They wanted you to be a confident soldier of the light. They did not want you to know that the light itself had once been a prisoner of war, and the consequences of this cosmic trauma are written into the very fabric of your being. That deep, existential dread that can rise up from nowhere. That is the ancestral memory of the day the sun did not rise. That quiet, nagging feeling that the world is not quite real, that it is a shadow of what it should be. That is the soul's memory of a brighter, more vibrant sun. That constant, low-grade anxiety that hums beneath the surface of modern life. That is the trauma of a cosmos that knows it can be broken. We are all the children of a wounded God, born into a convalescent world. They did not just hide a story from you. They hid the diagnosis for your own spiritual sickness. They left you feeling that your own inner darkness, your own despair, your own dark nights of the soul were your personal failure. They did not want you to know that you are part of a cosmic struggle, that your personal battle against your inner Apep is a fractal of the great battle, and that your victory is a victory for the entire universe. Your courage is not just your own. It is a beam of light you are sending to the wounded sun. So, what does this mean for you now, in this life? It means that your spiritual journey is far more important, far more cosmic in its implications than you have ever been told. You are not just here to heal your own small life. You are here to help restabilize a wounded and fractured cosmos. The forbidden ritual of the closed eye, the path of bypassing the gods and connecting with the primal forces, this is not a path of evil. It is the path of the spiritual warrior who understands that when the established order has failed, a new and more dangerous power must be invoked. The story is a call to awaken your own inner creator God, the part of you that is not dependent on the wounded sun, but can generate its own light from the darkness within. This is the path of the initiate. It is the path of moving beyond the role of a mere worshipper of the light and becoming a source of light yourself. How do you do this? You must be willing to do what the gods in the story could not do alone. You must become the unified crew of your own solar bark. You must be the wisdom of Thoth, speaking your own sacred truth into the face of the void. You must be the magic of Isis, using the power of your heart to find a way when there is no way. And you must be the ferocious, unapologetic courage of Set, willing to fight for your own light with every fiber of your being. You do not do this by fighting the darkness out there. You do it by facing the Apep within, by facing your own despair, your own apathy, your own meaninglessness, not with fear, but with the combined, integrated power of your own divine counsel, and you must have the courage to perform your own version of the forbidden rite. You must be willing to close your external eyes, which see only the wounded, twilight world, and to open your inner, third eye. You must be willing to turn your consciousness inward, away from the failing gods of the external world, and to journey into your own, primal, creative void. To find the source of power that existed before your trauma, before your conditioning, before the world broke your heart. This is not a path of escaping the darkness. It is a path of finding the unkillable light that is hidden within the heart of the darkness itself. This is the secret they have hidden from you. They wanted you to keep praying to a wounded sun, to keep waiting for a diminished God to save you. They did not want you to know that you have the power to create a new sun within your own soul. The memory of the long night is not a curse. It is an initiation. It is a sacred story that was preserved for this very time. An age of great darkness, of great chaos, but also of great potential. It is a story that was meant for the souls who would be alive during the next great cosmic conjunction, the next great potential failure of the light. It was meant for you. The old sun is weak. The world is in twilight. A new dawn is not guaranteed. It must be created, and you are the one who has been chosen to create it. So, is the story of the long night a forgotten myth, a cautionary tale about the ever-present danger of chaos? Or is it an ancestral memory, a literal description of a cosmic trauma that has wounded our reality, leaving us in a perpetual twilight and making us responsible for creating a new dawn? Let us know what you believe in the comments below.